In this video I'm going to cover the extruded surface, revolved surface, and swept surface, as well as use a few other tools in the process of creating a surface model. I won't go into too much detail with any of those three tools, as they're pretty much exactly the same as using the extrude, revolve, and sweep from the features toolbar. So if you're not quite sure how to use those yet, you can go back to the parts section of SolidWise and check those out. But I've drawn out a few sketches here, and I'm going to go ahead and start off with a swept surface. And I'll just choose my profile sketch and then the path. And keep in mind with the swept surface, the path doesn't actually have to pierce the profile sketch. And on the flip side, any guide curves that I choose do need to pierce that initial profile sketch. So I'll go ahead and create that and click OK. And I purposely made this profile tangent to the direction of the path, or tangent essentially to the mirror plane, so that I can mirror this surface over. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the right plane and choose the mirror tool. And for any surfaces, you're going to want to use the bodies to mirror. And we'll just choose knit surface. And that knit surface option will make it so we only have one surface body. Then I'm going to go ahead and use the extruded surface tool. And I may be switching back and forth between using the S toolbar and the toolbar up top, but typically when I'm modeling, modeling on my own, I use the shortcuts bar. So this will be trimming the two surfaces, so we can drag this up to pretty much any length and click OK. And then we're going to use the trim surface tool and choose the standard option. And I'll cover the trim surface tool in more depth in subsequent videos, but here I'll just create some selections to create my trim feature. So the first thing we'll do is use the cylinder as the trim tool. Here we can choose keep or remove selections. I'll just go ahead and remove out the outside portion. Next we'll want to do this again and use the inside trim as the trim tool and remove out the top. So you can see, using these tools you can pretty quickly produce some sort of surface model. You'll also notice all of the blue edges are considered open edges. And in the last video I talked about it a little bit. In the display option, this will say show open edges in a different color. And that'll just indicate that those edges are open. And when we knit them together, those lines will go back to a solid black. So the next thing I want to do is create a revolved surface on the right plane. And for this I'm going to go ahead and just draw up a center line and then draw in a 3-point arc. And the positioning of this isn't too important. I'm going to keep this point slightly away from the center line. And I want this to be underneath these two surfaces. Then I'll go ahead and come in and choose the revolve surface. And we'll keep the default of 360 degrees. Next, I want to trim the revolve, and we'll use this top surface and just remove out the bottom. Or if you wanted, you can choose keep selection and just choose that top. Now I want to go ahead and trim out the inside of this surface. And I could choose this face as the trim tool and remove out that inside. I could also create a 3D sketch if I wanted and convert out the edges. Or I can also use a tool called the Fit Spline, and that'll allow me to choose multiple entities, and it'll fit a spline to those. And I'll once again cover this more in detail in subsequent videos. The Fit Spline is a useful tool to merge two curved entities together, as well as produce a closed loop from an open loop if you had two open loops. But I'll go ahead and use this as my trim tool. And remove out the inside. And I can go ahead and knit these surfaces together. And once again, you'll see the open edge color turn to black as these are now knit. And if we want, we can create a fillet on several edges. As well as use the thicken command to create a solid body. You can see with those simple commands, the extrude, the revolve, and the swept surface, you can create a nice surface pretty quickly. Typically we'll be using a lot of the boundary surface and the filled surface with some combination of these added in as geometry to work from.